was telling Jordan that I'm wearing like an actual adult shirt today because in a recent pod, well, it wasn't a pod actually. It was like a prep for our Alliance for Women in Beer show, which, by the way, listeners, get your tickets. Go to the MBWY website and buy the Making Moves tickets. Your editors will all be there. But anyway, um, and I was on a prep call for that. And one of the people, I won't out them, but they were like, "Oh, so nice of you to get dressed for our meeting." I was like, dang. Don't you know that I work from home?
Yeah, come on.
I might not even be wearing pants right now. You can't say anything about it.
You know who really gets dressed up for the pods now is Harry.
Oh, yeah.
Harry's button down, shirt tucked in.
Yep. Hair
This is
combs.
Yeah, this is how he starts every pod, wetting down his hair.
Call him Slick Rick.
Yeah, he's showing up and
hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I am a little bit busy.
Uh-oh.
I bet.
Let's break some news. Tell us who you've been
Big
talking
week.
to this morning.
A lot of people.
Yeah. Good. All right, cool. Well, let me go ahead and give you an official welcome to our fine show here. Today, I would like to welcome to BeerNet Radio, Ty Gilmore, president of Tilray Brands U.S. Beer Division. Now, BBD readers know that cannabis giant Tilray has actually been pretty busy building out your U.S. beverage portfolio the last few years. And in fact, you all just announced a big deal in early August, about 500,000 barrels worth of AB craft that you guys have a deal to purchase. Now that it's almost 2 months later, we wanted to check in. So welcome, Ty.
Hey, Jen, good to see you and great to chat.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna get my meat hooks in you for a couple, and then I'll give everybody else a turn. But
Cool.
yeah, so it's been a couple of weeks. And by the way, when that news broke, I was about to get on a plane to Chicago, and I was like, of all days. But our crack team did a great job. But it's just crazy how these things happen, right? But so 8 AB craft and beyond beer brands for I think about 85 mil. So what's happened between now and then in terms of, how you guys have started digesting this whole thing? And I don't know if the deal's closed yet either.
Yeah, so the deal hasn't closed. It's still pending. We're hoping to close by the end of the year. So still a lot of work to do. A lot's been happening since we announced in early August. It's pretty exciting. You said it, right? We go from roughly 4 million cases to almost 12 million cases. We go from the 9th largest craft supplier to the 5th largest craft supplier. So, really starting to think strategically how this is going to come together on numerous fronts has really been our goal. Starting to engage with people, which is really, really exciting. So a lot has been moving since early August, which is great news.
Awesome. Cool. Well, so the $85 million question, right? If I'm going to really get specific, how will you guys leverage as you're starting to do, right? These breweries and their footprints in a way that, maybe AB couldn't in order to extract this value? What are the first line plans there?
Yeah, AB's made some great investments in these brands, which is really, really exciting. I mean, you go to PDX or 10 Barrel or Breck or Blue Point, you see the investments that they made into the facilities and into the people. It's really, really exciting. It changes the dynamic from us, right? From being, kind of a top 2 craft supplier in the Southeast to top 2 craft supplier into the Northeast. We become the number 1 craft supplier in the Pac Northwest. We become a top 5 craft supplier in kind of parts of the central U.S. We have more relevance down in Southern California, and obviously gain a lot more presence up in the Northeast and in the Southeast. So it's going to change the dynamics of how we operate. We're going to be truly a national company. I think, Jen, what I'm really excited about is I've been here close to 10 months. And have been able to really assemble just a great team with how we're going to kind of organize this, with the expectation that there were going to be opportunities down the road. And so when you get that really, really solid team established and you clearly understand the swim lanes that we're going to play in, how marketing is going to work with sales, how production is going to work with supply, how we're going to manage production or procurement and logistics. I have a really, really good team. And so now it's about weaving these brands in, although maybe further geographically than what we had before. But the shell and the foundation at the core of what we do, at what we're doing, stays true.
Yeah.
So.
And with that influx of all those new people, is the culture the same, or kind of how does that change? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's like you said, we're picking up 4 production facilities, 8 brands, no different than when SweetWater purchased Montauk. The culture at Montauk, it had its own culture, its own vibe. Kind of played up in the Northeast. My opportunity, the opportunity for Irwin and I is, how do we stay true to the story, the history, the heritage, the culture that exists locally, and continue to build off that, but also understand that we're part of a bigger company, where we're part of Tilray Brands, a global organization, and Tilray Beer, the 5th largest craft supplier in the U.S. And so, I think culture is this it's a fun word people like to use, right? I mean, I ask you what culture means to you, it might mean something different than Bianca says with culture. I'm a firm believer that if you empower your folks, people feel empowered, they feel inspired, they feel part of a family, they feel kind of energized to go make a difference in the community with what they do. That's really, really important to our current businesses and the businesses that we're going to pick up. But culture is going to play a really key role, and you said it. We're picking up a lot of great people with this transaction. I think some really, really talented folks. And when you get talented folks that want to win, that want to make a difference, that want to continue to make a big impact in the community, these cultures are going to only get stronger, I think, in the local communities. And I think company-wide, it's going to only make us better.
Well said. Bianca?
So logistically, how do you onboard all these brands into the structure, that Tilray's already built?
Yeah.
And how is that going to look different in the coming months?
Yeah, well, I think I'll maybe answer the second part first. It's not going to look a lot different in terms of kind of route to market, right? So we have a commitment with ABI that we're going to stay with the current network, right? So the Anheuser-Busch distributors that distribute 10 Barrel or Blue Point, Red Hook, Whitmer, we're gonna stay with those distributors, and we're gonna build great partnerships and form a really, really strong foundation. So that doesn't change. The other thing that doesn't change is how we start to show up from a commercial perspective, right? Like, so we've made a conscious decision to invest feet in the street in strategic markets, right? And how we hold our people accountable in the streets, and how we want them to work with our distributors and our retailers. Like, if we're doing that in Atlanta, we can do that in Portland real easy, because it's the same process. It's just new people within these brands. How we start to weave, 10 Barrel and their King cocktails, which are on fire, right? Or Blue Point Toasted Lager and SweetWater 420. That's a whole piece, Bianca, a whole piece of complexity that we're working on right now. And I have thoughts on how we're going to weave that together, but we don't have all the plans right now, right? We know that we have some brands that really, really index and are doing extremely well on a local and regional level. We also think, both in our current portfolio and our existing portfolio, that we have brands and SKUs that it can expand beyond just a local or regional level. And that becomes the strategic link on, where do we start to place bets? How do we want to make those investments? And ultimately, our goal is that, with these brands, is how do we start becoming that leader in craft and growing the category? And I think that becomes really, really important to us, and our ability to take these brands and start to operate from a point of We are going to show that we can go and drive growth in craft beer. We can recruit new consumers into this category. We can get females into craft beer. We can get LDA to 35 into this category. Like, innovation is going to play a critical role on how we start to do that.
Well,
I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
well, I know you had called out California and the Pacific Northwest specifically when the deal was announced. And then I think the next day on a call, Erwin mentioned Texas and the Great Lakes. So I'm wondering if there's been any movement there on building up the brands, or if those are the locations you're getting more feet in the street, like you said.
yeah, so the Pac Northwest, we become the #1 craft player. So when you combine Red Hook, Whitmer, 10 Barrel, and Square Mile cider, we're the #1 craft. Today, before the transaction closes, we're really predominantly Alpine, Green Flash, and a little bit of SweetWater in Southern California. So you add in 10 Barrel, you add in the sours, and you add in Shock Top. We now have a much bigger presence. I think we go to, we're a top 15 craft player in one of the most competitive craft areas in the U.S. Texas and Great Lakes are still what we would consider a white space opportunity for us, right? So I think some of these new brands exist there today. You think about Breckenridge and the number of folks that travel from Texas to Breckenridge to go ski and enjoy, summer and winter. It's no different than Blue Point and the number of consumers from New York that go down to Florida, where Breckenridge does a really good, a great job. So we would say that Texas and Great Lakes are more of a white space for us, but we think we have brands now within our portfolio that we can expand. The other example I'll share is we just launched a new brand under SweetWater Gummies, a high ABV, 9.5%, fruit forward, flavor forward, fruit punch, tropical, tastes absolutely amazing. It's become my favorite beer of choice, and it's doing extremely well. I mean, we can't be any more excited. You look at the competitor and how much growth that's driving in the category. To recruiting new consumers. We think that brand has an opportunity to go and help drive that high ABV category, especially in markets like the Great Lakes and Texas, where some of the competitive sets brands do extremely well.
I wanted to follow up on a couple things there. With Breckenridge, when we talked to Erwin after the deal, he kind of made it seem like the confusion there between Breckenridge Distillery and Breckenridge Brewery was kind of a nag. How will what's the plan with those two, and how will things change with ownership of both? Will they kind of become more of a singular company, or what can you share there?
I think Ryan, the simple, Jordan, the simple answer is that we kind of own the name Breckenridge, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool. That alone is pretty powerful. No different than owning the name Montauk, right? So I think that's really powerful. We have Breckenridge Distillery, which has the #1 blended bourbon, was voted the #1 blended bourbon globally, which is really exciting. And we have, Breckenridge Brewery that produces some great beers. So I think there's definitely opportunities as you think about how we do collaborations. I know in the past that Breckenridge Brewery has done collaborations with Breckenridge Distillery. Now that we own both, that's at our fingertips, right? You think about how you start to engage consumers. We have a tap room, Breckenridge Brewery in Breck, probably 2 miles from Breckenridge Distillery, and also a tasting room. And so how we start to weave those together becomes really important. We have some other innovative ideas that a little too early to share, but it's fun owning the naming rights to Breckenridge. I think there is a lot we can do there, and I think it has you can think about all the brands that have big naming rights on something like that. That's a destination. and how you create an experience that's fun, right? And I think that's also, I think that's what craft beer needs too, right? Like craft beer talks to craft consumers, and we have an opportunity now to have, Breckenridge Brewery and Breckenridge Distillery, and you think about how, in bourbon and gin and vodka, they're talking about things like fashion and food and cars and shoes, and like we have an opportunity to bring that same passion and energy back with Breckenridge Brewery as we try to kind of tie those two brands up together. You ever been to Breckenridge Distillery?
No, I have not.
Five-star restaurant. Like, you got to go. Like, tell me when you're going to be there. Five-star restaurant. Like, if people go into Breckenridge Distillery and obviously the distillery is awesome. Brian and his team have done an amazing job, but like, you go into the restaurant, it's absolutely 5-star. It's like amazing, right? And so how do we play off having a 5-star restaurant 2 miles away from us and having this really cool Breckenridge tap room that we can start to do some synergetic, have some synergies and pull things together,
Definitely. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask, you mentioned the commitment to existing AB distributors. Is that for the territories they're in currently, or if you wanted to take some of those regional brands and expand them, would that apply into new markets?
Yeah, so it definitely applies to the current territory, right?
Okay.
So there's a commitment there. As we launch innovation, as we maybe think about brands expanding to other areas, as you know, in this industry, there's a lot that goes into this, right? I don't know if some of those brands have already been righted to those distributors in those states or not, and that's something that we'll continue to look at. But we're going to be very, very smart and strategic. We're not just going to wake up, in early January and start trying to take the brands and take them national. I think that would be undisciplined, and that's not the approach that we want to take. We want to have, a really, really strong strategy. We want to be very disciplined and really partner with retailers and distributors that also think, based on all the consumer research and the consumer insights that we're garnering now, that these brands have a right to win. No different than Montauk, right? I mean, Montauk's in a handful of states, and you go and you learn about the brand, and there's no reason that's not a national brand really, really soon. And so your question is where does that brand go if you take it out to Texas or the Great Lakes or out west? That becomes a really interesting discussion that we get to have.
Yeah, I'd love to see it here in Texas.
Yeah. Are you in Austin?
I'm in San Antonio.
Oh, San Antonio. Oh, my own stopping grounds from
Blazers. Yeah.
I need to get in a couple of those HEBs there for you. So
Please do.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Right.
I know somebody over at HEB. Maybe I'll shoot him a text and let him know that you want Montauk there. So.
And Ty, when you come into town, we were just talking, we have a place for you to stay and everything. It's the BeerNet Radio Studios.
World headquarters.
I love it. I love
World HQ. Well, speaking of destinations, I thought, what you guys were just talking about was really interesting. Obviously, Breckenridge is a destination and Montauk is a destination and sort of its own marketing vehicle. And how brands like Corona built themselves based very destination heavy, right? And invoking that state of mind. So will you guys pursue that in future acquisitions perhaps? Or is that just something that kind of came together for you?
I don't know if we'll pursue that in future acquisitions. I don't know if that will be a driving force for why we make acquisitions or we don't. I do think there's something there though when we do that, which is really, really exciting, and we're seeing it with Montauk, and I've seen it now with Breckenridge, and we can see it. Atlanta is just a thriving market right now, and although SweetWater's been around since '97, it's really become a staple with all the shakes that have happened. So it's absolutely something that we want to explore. I think being true to your core and your home base becomes really, really important, and how you expand that out also becomes really important. So I think I think it's important, Jen, that as we think about craft beer in the future, right? Like, how are we going to continue to think about the current consumer, the new consumer, all the dynamics that are happening within beverage alcohol, just beverage in general, and how do we kind of set ourselves up to win more consumers, win more hearts and minds with our products in a really, really responsible way. And if that comes through, right, creating this destination, great. But I think there's other ways we can do that as well. So
interesting. Yeah. And I'm also curious, speaking of winning hearts and minds and the things that are growing, right? Spirits continues to eat share of this bev-alc pie, this beverage pie. And you mentioned the 10-barrel cocktails, that sort of thing. I'm kind of surprised you guys haven't done more with spirits, or is there more to come there? How do you guys think about that space?
Yeah, we've been thinking about it quite a bit. It's it's near to dear to our heart, obviously, with Breckenridge Distillery. We just have to make sure it's authentic, it's thought through, and we have clear points of differentiation, right? I think the days, and you've heard Irwin say this, of just creating a brand and stacking it high and trying to watch it fly, those days might be over, right? And so you have to be really, really thoughtful in what you do. And there's some brands out there that have done a really, really good job. They're authentic. Some don't have big brand names on it. So that's what we have to continue to think about on how we do. I don't know if you've tried 10-barrel cocktails. Absolutely amazing.
I don't think we do. I don't think we get them in Texas.
I'll send you some. I mean, we just launched SweetWater canned cocktails. Absolutely amazing. Doing extremely well at Mercedes-Benz Dome, right? Getting a lot of trial and sampling. We sell it at our tap room. I mean, you walk into our tap room and you can just see, I mean, like, there's a consumer that comes in that loves craft beer, and there's this consumer, this female consumer that might not be all into craft beer, and they're drinking our canned cocktails, which is amazing. Blue Point has the same thing. So we're excited about that.
So you already have kind of a built-in foray just by making an RTD spirit for any of your brands, right? I mean,
we probably have a foray to do spirits in general if we want to. If you think about it, right? Yep. So that's the fun part at our fingertips.
Cool. One quick more for me, and then I don't know if Bianca has more for you, but I'm curious. I mean, so I think Irwin had said a couple months ago when this deal was first announced, and he had told me before in interviews that maybe cannabis, it's not really here yet in the US. And obviously the beverage business is a huge one. So yeah, why not be in it? That's a good strategy, right? But I wonder if, in the last few weeks when certain things have come out and it looks like the cannabis industry might be a little bit closer to fruition in the US, do you guys go, okay, how do we extend these brands, right? Like, are you maybe closer to cannabis than you were 6 months ago in the US, or how do you feel about that?
No. I mean, I think we made it very clear, right? Until cannabis is federally regulated in the US, we have a lot to do at hand right now. And so kind of taking our eye off that ball and do anything with that, I think, again, would be undisciplined for us in the US. We've made an acquisition in Canada where cannabis is federally regulated, and that allows us the opportunity to go as a cannabis, the number one share player there. It gives us the opportunity to go and do things there. And so, I think, I don't want to get too excited. We got to let it all play itself out. Sure. I think we going from 4 million to 12 million cases. It'd be easy to take your eye off the ball, and we don't want to do that. So,
Bianca, Jay, back to y'all.
I'm just curious how you think these brands are gonna play with each other in market, and if you're taking anything out of AB's toolbox in terms of marketing, or if you're going to have a different approach.
So maybe the example I could give is how I think the brands could play together. So you think about SweetWater, that's really kind of a pale ale, crushable pale ale, unapologetically big, bold IPAs, right? Doesn't play in the wheat space, right? Does extremely well in Florida. In Florida, Shock Top, from everything I can see, is a wheat beer flavored that does extremely, extremely well, right? So how these brands potentially start to play together is you walk into a Publix or a Winn-Dixie or a Total Wine or a Wawa or Circle K, right? Or a Walmart. And now you have this Tilray beer display that actually captures that consumer that wants a crushable, pale ale or this big IPA or the sweet beer, right? And that's what consumers want. It's no different than going to like a car dealership today, right? Like 5 years ago, you go to a car dealership and you had to go to 6 different car dealerships that were all on this, a mile of cars, right? You had to go into the Chevy and the Ford and the Kia and the Mercedes. And now they're all together. You can go into one dealership and you can really start to pick and choose. And I think that's how these brands, no different than Montauk and Blue Point, 10 Barrel, Red Hook, Whitmer up in the Pac Northwest. I think there's some history and data that we can take on how they start to play together to give consumers that choice, that variety that we know that they're looking for when they go into an off-premise account. They're looking for when they go into an on-premise account, hence all the tap handles. So
one more for me. I'm curious because I think some people might believe that some doors will close with these brands leaving AB without the AB muscle. But I'm wondering if, you think doors will open with their independence back, and you might get into some restaurants that said, we don't want to carry these brands because they're macro brewer owned, blah, so on and so on. And if that's the case, how much will you emphasize the regaining of independence for these brands?
Yeah, I think hold on a second. Hold on, Roger. Oh, good. Yeah. Background noise going on. And I'm not in a coffee shop, so
that's okay. It's on brand for us. Don't worry about that.
I know everybody here. They forgot I'm talking. I would say this is through conversations that I've had with a lot of distributors that they're Anheuser-Busch that sell our current brands, so that they have this other portfolio. I think there's a overarching level of excitement, right? I think we want to keep things simple. We want to keep things clear. We want to listen to our distributors. We want to listen to our retailers. And we want to innovate in a really fast way. And so sometimes it's good to have muscle. I've spent a lot of years at Diageo, and I think they have a lot of muscle. I also think that that there's smaller brands that can be more nimble, be more clear, can listen. And I think in the future state of where we're going, that becomes a point of differentiation for us. So I think, yes, could we lose out on opportunities? Absolutely. But I think for every opportunity we lose, I'm betting that we pick up 2 or 3, if not more, because of just simplicity, partnerships, keeping it simple, listening, and innovating really, really fast. And I think you guys have seen, in the 10 months that I've been here, I mean, we've probably come out with as many brands as some companies takes 10 years to do, right? And a lot of them are being really, really successful, and that's fun, And when you have 500,000 barrels at your fingertip, right? And you play in a lot of markets across the U.S. and you can talk to consumers like you're able to do that, and that becomes so exciting. So I view it as a really an opportunity for us. And again, I've been in Florida and Georgia and kind of out west and then the Midwest right now, and there seems to be a lot more excitement about about our opportunity and what we bring. Nothing against what AB's done. I think AB's done an amazing job, but we're going to do it our way, which is exciting.
And I wonder what's SweetWater 420 Fest going to look like next year with more than twice the amount of brands as before, right? I remember at its pinnacle, it was like the UT campus. There were like 50,000 people there. Like, is it going to be 100,000 people next year? What are you guys planning?
Yeah, we're working on something. I can't share yet, but but who's to say that what if we have a national 420 Fest? And so we're doing something in Atlanta, something in Denver, something in Portland, something in Bend, something in Seattle, something down at Petco Park. Maybe we're doing a couple things up in Patchogue, maybe something in Montauk. We're going to continue to think big. We do have a lot of cool brands. I think we have this platform called the 420 Fest, which is around consumers coming out and listening to great music and having fun and just celebrating. And so, why just one place for 1 or 2 days? Why not multiple places?
That's pretty cool. I don't know how I'm going to get to all those places in one day, but
I need to come to San Antonio. So
yeah, I might
how
have
big
to
of a parking lot do you have? Like we can get a GM van down in your parking lot. We could figure something out.
Oh my gosh, for sure. That would be amazing. I'm going to hold you to that time.
Yeah, I mean, how cool is that? Have you guys ever done a concert before? This would be like the inaugural, like sponsored by Tilray Brands. Like, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, dang. I was going to say, look, my name says Harry Schuhmacher. I approve this, but I changed my name. It's Harry's Icon, but this is the only time that's ever backfired. But anyway, well, cool. Well, thanks, Ty. Does anybody else have any more questions? I thought that was great. So thank you.
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the questions, and look forward to kind of keeping you guys posted as we hopefully close by the end of the year, and keep you a lot of energy on how we bring all this together. So happy to kind of show and keep sharing on how we're doing this. So
awesome.
For sure. And we'll be in touch about 420 Fest.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll talk to Harry.
I love that idea. Like that's a big idea. Like we just created a big idea here. Like,
us too. Yeah.
In real time, right?
Ready, let's go. I'm ready to make a decision.
We did it. It's done. We're doing it. Everybody, listen, wait for the details. Y'all be there. So Harry will do something, karaoke or something like that.
Let's stay away from that. You can just wave,
He likes to sing Creep. You're not going to believe it, but
yeah. It's actually a pretty good rendition.
Very on brand. No, just kidding. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Have a great one. Cheers.
All right. See ya. Take care. Bye-bye.